Zanaka, which in the sign language interpretation. Before we kickstart our bulletin, here's a quick look at our top stories. In business today, health sector embraces digital services as post-pandemic resurgence strengthens. Insurance admits 30% loss to manual systems. Finance Ministry corrections further push 52 trillion budget approval. Speaker Anita Among threatens to disband budget committee. Agriculture Ministry, Naro and Asareka emphasize research and development for food security. Over 72 billion shillings lost per season to food waste and loss. Thank you once again for joining us and for the pleasure of your company. Now kicking it off with the budget approval deferrals. Further changes to the 52 trillion shillings budget of the upcoming financial year by the Ministry of Finance has influenced delayed approval of the national budget. Currently, a section of legislators has cited inconsistencies in the budget process and a move to pass the budget without the required quorum. Samra Hanifa has more of this report.
The law dictates that corrections to addendum must be made before the budget is discussed. They cannot be made when the budget committee is about to deliver the supply to the House. Ministry of Finance introduced a second corrigendum yesterday just as the budget committee was about to present supply to the August House, delaying the entire process until today. The third corrigendum, which Finance introduced today, compelled the budget committee to request for extra time.
The day for supply and the completion of the budget process for financial year 2023-2024. But members, you recall that today morning an addendum to the corrigendum was laid before this table.
Speaker Mong granted the committee an additional 2 hours to review the corrigendum before returning to address the budget and suspending the House in the process.
We must supply today. Whether we reach whatever time, we must finish the budget. When we continue holding these budget estimates, so many things come in between. So many. So let's supply, and we know that we've supplied. If we don't do today, Finance will come tomorrow again with another addendum. You get it, eh? So let's finish this.
When the House resumed, Speaker expressed her disappointment with the Budget Committee over delaying the budget process and warned to disband the whole committee.
Business of being mercenaries. If I don't get a report by 2:30, I will name and shame the members who are disorganizing the committee. And we'll disband the committee because we are not going to continue working like this. Some few members cannot go and start disorganizing a committee. And remember, if they disorganize a committee, they are disorganizing you as Parliament.
According to the chairperson of the Budget Committee, they need up to tomorrow to carefully deal with the corrigendum brought in today because it changes the whole budget report.
Government has continued to submit addendums and corrigendums to the estimates. And you are aware, even this morning, 2 hours ago, addendum to the corrigenda was laid on this floor and referred to the committee. It will be magical science for the committee to be able to meet the directive of preparing and consolidating a report today. So we request the House, Right Honorable Speaker, to allow us have the whole of today, interrogate and do the right casting of this and report tomorrow to this House.
On the other side, the lawmakers have voiced their displeasure with government for attempting to stall the budgetary process by introducing further rectifications just as the committee was about to report its findings.
It is extremely abnormal for government keeping on changing the impression of the budget. We've received 3 corrigendas so far. since the beginning of the week. Now, these corrigenders simply inform us of the new way government thinks money should be budgeted for. So yesterday it was another, and today it's another. So you can't tell us that you had a different mind yesterday from the mind you have today. To change your mind like that, you should have a motive. So what motive is driving government to think like this?
Very true. Okay, it is constitutional that you can bring the corrigenders, you can bring those addendum. But if it is too much beyond what is expected, then it will raise some query. You know, in most cases, why they bring the budget to the sectoral committee is for the sectoral committee to scrutinize, to analyze and see the past budget. Last year, what was given to you on what item? What did you do about it?
The Speaker then called for an adjournment for the House until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. to deal with the issue, but she issued a warning to some lawmakers who she claimed were attempting to disrupt the budgeting process, even though the budget needed to be passed quickly.
Government has so far presented 3 corrigenders prolonging the budgeting process by the Budget Committee. Members of Parliament have expressed fears over the outcome of the budget, which is going to be passed tomorrow, indicating that it will not be a pro-people one. Sam Lanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Moving on from that, let's now look at the digital health care. Now, the medical industry, insurers, and affiliate players are concentrating on enhancing their performance and revenue cycles post-pandemic. Key among the challenges, however, is the market price sensitivity and limited data. With 13% of the recommendations, digitization has been recommended as the future to healthcare acceleration. The healthcare industry globally is recovering from the pandemic, which strained healthcare systems. In Uganda, average healthcare costs vary based on service type, facility location, and individual circumstances. Statistics show a 22.9% increase in medical care costs in 2021, followed by a drop of 9.9% in 2022. IP services increased by 25.1% in 2021 and dropped by 0.4% in 2022, while pharmacies saw an increase of 27.4% in 2021 but dropped by 11.4% in 2022. Laboratory costs rose by 26% in 2021 and decreased by 16% in 2022. According to Uganda Insurance Association, manual systems account for 30% of the current losses. With only 1% medical insurance penetration rate, bridging the gap between the healthcare sector and stakeholders is crucially needed.
I think I mentioned that today we are only covering about 1% of the population. Now, I will tell you that the 99% that we are not covering is probably out of formal employment. But these people, the 99%, still require our services. So how technology and automation is going to help is in the aspect of access. It means that if we can adopt technology, we can reach many more people. Now, of course, the majority of my members are within cities or towns. So you will find that anyone outside the major cities, the major trading cities and towns, will not be able to access medical insurance. Now, with these kind of applications, it means that even onboarding clients and
innovations, especially in the digital platform, we are going to all have to benefit. For example, if I go down to the clients who come to us, we know on average they spend about six hours in our health unit. And in the 6 hours, what are we doing? I can assure you behind there, for about 4 hours, we are just collecting data. You know, we are collecting data, especially in a non-digital setting. For example, when I used to work with the government, there will be a lot of recording done, and this takes time. Sometimes you have to go and pick previous records to put in the file and all this. So you are wasting about 4 hours of the client's time. And this time, if with the digital applications can be saved, we can all benefit. The client will leave the health unit earlier and can be able to go and do other things. But for me, also as the health worker, I can see more clients in the 6 hours. so everybody benefits. And
to harness this potential, the healthcare industry's future depends on technological advancements for accessible, affordable, and high-quality care. Indigenous, convenient, patient-based, and smart technologies are vital for enhancing the speed and efficiency of healthcare service delivery across all levels. This approach aims to expedite the access to healthcare services, as explained by the country director of Smart International Limited.
Now, how we've been able to handle the traffic is, you see, these systems must work in tandem. So you have a provider having a system, but you also have Smart enabling the member to reach the service provider. So we're saying that, indeed, in my presentation, I mentioned that not all service providers have systems. So the essence of automation of their back-end systems is very important, like having a hospital management system. Because the biggest challenge is retrieval of medical records. You have come, you are called Mary. How long does it take them to retrieve your records since you last visited and then give it to the doctor? Whereas with automation, all they have to do is go and identify you with your unique member number and your records come up. So what we have done as Smart, to shorten that process, we also integrate our systems with the existing service provider system. Once we do that, then the retrieval of medical records becomes a lot easier because the information is passed between the two systems, they're able to retrieve the record and the process starts.
The government has taken steps towards enhancing healthcare delivery and cost management in Uganda, whereby there is an existing exemption on the supply of services to conduct a feasibility study, design and construction, the supply of locally produced materials for the construction of premises and other infrastructure machinery, as well as equipment for furnishings and fittings to a hospital facility developer. Partnerships between healthcare administrators and service providers, supported by data and insights, are tipped to support the success of the industry. Now, in the charge to combat the alarming challenge of food insecurity that has gripped over 16.4 million Ugandans, the country is compounding research and development as innovative scientific programs for sustainable solutions are fronted. The Agriculture Ministry, NARO, Asareka are clearly involved in an initiative for restoration.
According to World Food Programme, over 16.4 million Ugandans face insufficient food consumption, responding to accessibility and affordability challenges, all signs of the growing food insecurity. Besides programs such as the UNDP's Fostering Sustainable and Resilience for Food Security in Karamoja sub-region that intends to emphasize agricultural productivity, research and development has been compounded to address the disastrous of food security crisis. Asereko, Maif and Naro are now committed to the science-based approach.
And the science we want to apply in research is creating resilience, having out varieties that yield much and withstand the harsh weather, but also use science in production system for our food. And we are focusing on good genetics for both plant and animal resources. We are also looking at nutrition for both plant and animal resources. We are also looking at plant and animal health to make sure that whatever we are doing is healthy and consumable by our people, and also matching international standards.
The International Water Management Institute's acceleration policy is an extra external resolution platform focusing on sustainable food insecurity. Water Energy Food Nexus is to provide a holistic approach for trade-offs and synergies between affiliate sectors to ensure sustainable development and effective resource allocation.
We work a lot in an accelerator model. That means we promote the acceleration of innovations by supporting agribusinesses, SMEs. We provide scaling grants to de-risking grants, and then we provide the technical support to help farmers, to help agribusinesses to scale those innovations. And we've seen that really leads to quite a good impact. We see over 200% return on investment for this in these domains that we work, and generally building this resilience and improving livelihoods.
Cameroon-based Agricultural Research Institute further confirms the essence of scientific programs to promote food security. As the approach ensures relevance to development goals, narrow stresses the power of genetic engineering and seed banks to oversee preservation of high-quality production.
To develop the value chain. So during the rainy the peak periods where we have a lot of production, what do? We encourage some processing so that we can have a product throughout the year. And then there's the value chain, means that everybody is specialized in a particular value chain so that the level or the income level of all the products along the value chain is well exploited. So the food system, it involves every actor. So every actor is doing what is they can do at their own end to make sure that we have sustainable food in the country.
As Uganda, we are a food secure country. We are food secure. We have the good grains, good soil, and a variety of crops that do well in Uganda. So as NARO, we have contributed greatly through seed production. All the seed that you see being grown in Uganda is through NARO. We have the National Genetic Seed Bank, where we conserve all the seed for rice, beans, maize, vegetables, millet. We conserve them under very good conditions at the Gene Bank in Entebbe. For the trees, we keep them at the botanical gardens. And also we've gone further and created and established community seed banks in different parts of Uganda, not all across the country, but to some areas have the community seed banks to ensure that farmers have access to the different seeds that are specific to their regions.
With over 72 billion Ugandan shillings lost every season due to inadequate combative measures to food waste and losses, adoption of climate-smart agricultural initiatives remains constantly needed for sustainable agricultural practices. Martin Msima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Away from food production and agriculture, we now head to industrial growth. Now, the industrial sector has called upon maximum efforts to support capitalization, especially among small and medium enterprises. The demand has been coupled with the Trade Ministry's call for import substitution to leverage regional trade openings and across Africa.
A country, we can now produce tiles. Tiles are produced here. They used to be imported. We are assembling TVs. We have now started assembling electric motorcycles and vehicles. As you know, Kila Motors is ongoing. We have a huge list of the products that we are producing here since 1986, and we are making very, very good progress.
As the Ministry of Trade directs focus to import substitution and export promotion, put at the forefront is the realization and utilization of the regional markets like the Africa Continental Free Trade Area with a $62 billion GDP and a market population of 1.3 billion people, also projected at 2.5 billion people by 2050, the East African Community with a population of about 400 million people, and the AGOA, which David Bahati, the Minister of State for Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, further highlights about.
You recall, during the Bill Clinton administration, we signed an agreement with Americans to export their quota-free and duty-free 5,400 products. And we are making those small progress, but at least now we can export 30 products out of the 5,000. We also have preferential agreements, trade agreements with China, with Japan, and European Union. But to access these markets, we must improve the standards of our products. And that's the reason why we are investing in Uganda National Bureau of Standards.
However, the productive capacity of the African people is critical, which calls for proper capitalization and utilization of the 1.3 billion Africans. The AFSA Secretary General, Wamkele Mene, calls for intra-trade and preference of the African-produced goods in order to industrialize Africa, in turn creating jobs that are a major issue in the continent.
1.3 billion Africans relying for their food security on grains, imports that come from another part of the world. 1.3 billion people, when correctly so, the paper that was presented informs us that we have over 60% of the world's arable land. So we rely on a country of 43 million people for Africa's food security, to feed Africa. Part of the problem that we are facing is, for so long, for over 65 years, we have had this fragmentation of the rules that actually prohibited intra-Africa trade in basic agricultural products.
As access to these markets calls for production of quality goods, regional testing laboratories have been set up in all regions of Uganda, as SMEs are also provided with capitalization schemes to solve the challenge of the high cost of capital.
We have increased the staffing of UNBS. We have increased the infrastructure in terms of laboratories across the regions of our country. And also, we are helping to certify small and medium enterprises who cannot who don't have the capacity to raise money to get certification with UNBS through different avenues of financing to satisfy them so that they can produce products.
Given the potential of the continent, the chronically low contribution of Africa to the global GDP, well below $5 trillion is quite concerning. Uganda ranks 8th in the world for coffee production, but it does not bring in even $1 billion. The private sector is working relentlessly to increase the value of coffee to at least $3 billion. According to Richard Mubiru, a board member for the Uganda Manufacturers Association, intra-Africa commerce is just 15% of what it is for the rest of the globe, which necessitates the development of comprehensive policies to promote trade.
We're talking about 54 countries with a population of almost 1.5 billion people as of 2021. And of course, in terms of agro-production, we are talking about a continent that has almost 900 million hectares of land, with only less than 300 hectares under cultivation, which presents a very unique opportunity in terms of food production into the future. We have a very young population across the board. 60 to 70% of our population on the continent is anywhere below 35 years, as already highlighted, and therefore the very reason why we should really be worried if we don't plan for their future.
Ugandans are urged to utilize the capitalization programs provided by the government, for instance, loans availed in the Uganda Development Bank, the Microfinance Support Center, Parish Development Model, as well as the Agriculture Facility Trade Provisions. Margaret Nachiganda, Business Today.
Now, government has allotted over 10 billion shillings in the integrated management system to streamline the financial management and accountability for the parish development model. The ICT Ministry has confirmed just how crucial digital-driven data is to aid the success of the already cash-strapped project.
The PDM, which consists of 7 major pillars, intends to completely transform grassroots development. In a significant accomplishment, the government has implemented the Parish Development Model Integrated Financial System, a vital component that is expected to simplify financial management and responsibility within parishes across the nation. The Parish Development Integrated Management System serves as a testament to the government's dedication to inclusive and sustainable development. PIMS is anticipated to alter local administration by utilizing technology and data-driven methods, promoting socio-economic advancement, and strengthening neighborhood communities.
This system is hinged to supporting communities to improve their livelihoods through this model. And the aim of the system is that we are going out to the communities to register every household, get to know who is in this household, what do they do. When the fund for the parish development model is being given out, it's not given out to everyone, but there is a category of people who are supposed to get these funds. But we can only get to know these people if we determine who they are.
The system is created to be in line with the objectives and ambitions set in the National Development Plan 3, which aims to promote social progress, advance economic growth, and preserve the environment. According to the government, over 10,000 parishes have been reached. As a result, these parishes require financial inclusion and oversight of the SACCOs that will receive the money in order to ensure that there is less borrowing and that the funds reach the intended beneficiaries.
The government has established a PDM SACCO at each of the 10,594 parishes and is committed to capitalizing the same.
Office of the President is committed to ensure that the parish development model as a vehicle for extending government services to the citizens to stimulate wealth creation succeeds and thrives. This model will specifically enable the data gathering and best enterprises, selection and development, cooperatives and financial services development, community mobilization, and mindset.
Inclusion is supposed to manage the parish revolving fund, which is the fund that is going to be given out to the different SACCOs that have been registered in the various parishes. So you find that as we are registering households, we also register the SACCOs that constitutes the teams of people that are going to be able to get this fund. The benefit of all this is to ensure that there is minimal borrowing, and as such, the funds reach the intended beneficiaries.
On the other hand, some local leaders continue to be unhappy with the funding provided to a number of parishes, alleging that it is insufficient considering the size of those parishes' populations.
You are talking about 11 million people, okay? Out of 40, they are in the central region. When you look at the allocation under the PDM, we are going to receive the least amount of money. It's because, one, we have fewer parishes. So he never put numbers into perspective, into this whole thing. That is a wrong conception of the parish development model.
With the successful implementation of PIMS, the government anticipates significant improvements in service delivery, increased citizen engagement, and a more transparent and accountable administration. As the country progresses towards the targets set out in NDP3, the Parish Development Integrated Management System stands as a testament to the government's dedication to achieving sustainable development and fostering a better future for all citizens. Naomi Mutumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Business Today will now take a short break, but we will return with more because there is so much more in stock. Don't go away.
Smart 24, driving business.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
Sulabira wa gano kima kagakatemba amajja omukwano obulimba obujja byonna bisanga wano kati mweza remote abewuwo bakunganye olunyumi lw'ekatemba ku Pearl Magic Loco.
This is our home. Bonna mu Luganda Pearl Magic Loco eri ku mukutu namba 42 ku DSTV ate ku mukutu 315 ku GOTV. Pearl Magic Loco tuli ku ground.
He must be rich, tall, handsome, from a respectable family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
Owa, obadde olobye ku ssimu?
Ya munange, anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumirwa omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kw'otadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya GOTV channels ku ssimu yo olwo onyumirwe ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kukozesa data. GOTV channels.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back from that short break. Thank you for sticking with us. Now, moving on with business today, we now look at the maize value chain emphasis. Now, the Grain Council of Uganda, together with AGRA, have urged grain exporters to effect post-handling efficiency in order to realize trade revenue. While in Mubende district, the aflatoxin crisis was red flagged as it has often been reminding farmers of its adverse limit to regional trade transparency. Pedson Mumbele has more of this.
Uganda, through the Uganda National Bureau of Standards, UNBS, developed standards against aflatoxins and harmonized them with the East African Community standards. But there are still unclear questions as to why Kenyans immediately banned Uganda's maize exports to their country in violation of all East African Community protocols. However, experts from AGRA and the Grain Council of Uganda attributed this to improper storage practices that lead to aflatoxins, which restricts market access.
This issue of poor quality maize was really bad. We actually came across a number of cases, actually majority of the cases where maize crossing borders was deemed unfit and therefore rejected at the borders crossing into Kenya. What we have been seeing over the last few years with our intervention, but also, of course, other partners, is really a change in behavior, right from farm level to aggregator level, where our small farmers have actually adopted certain practices that help improve the quality of maize in terms of handling.
According to World Health Organization 2021 report, aflatoxins pose a significant economic burden, causing an estimated 25% and more of the world's food crops to be destroyed annually. Based on the research completed over a 12-year period and published in an online journal, Sales Direct in 2018, 3,700 instances of liver cancer caused by aflatoxins costed Uganda $577 million. That's approximately 200 billion annually, and aflatoxins-related illnesses additionally costed Ugandan government $910,000 million. Harriet Nawire, in charge member services at Grain Council of Uganda, says that they have impact on training farmers on standards in different districts to tap into regional markets.
We actually started off with training the farmers. We cannot go to all the farmers, but we have selected 12 members of the Grain Council. These are members who have an outreach of a number of farmers that they work with. So we had to train, we had to start from the grassroots. So we started with training farmers on the maize standard and also training them on awareness of aflatoxin.
According to information that I have just gathered from farmers here in Mityana and Mubende districts, Uganda exports more than 500 tons of maize to the Republic of Kenya. However, penetrating other regional markets has become a big problem because of aflatoxins that come as a result of poor harvest management. The Ministry of Finance said during the month of December 2022 that maize exports increased from $4.34 million in November 2022 to $20.48 million in December 2022. The rise was partly due to the onset of the maize harvesting season, as well as the heightened demand for Uganda's maize by the neighboring countries. Grain exporters like Tumini Wilson says that much as we are recording all these increases, but there is still poor maize quality.
To make sure that we capture the regional market, we have first of all to deal with good quality maize in particular by training our farmers, field farm practicals.
Within marketing, which makes a good price is high yield and good quality.
Talking about destination of exports as of December 2022, the East African community remained the major destination for Uganda's exports, accounting for $227.08 million. That's approximately 61.1% of the total exports during the month. Daniel Njiwa, the head regional food trade at Accra, believes that more efforts about post-handling are still needed.
Just today, one of the farmers said, hey, if you could, help us with a tarpaulin, just one piece will go a long way to help with the drying kind of activities. So I think there's quite a bit to be done. The knowledge has really filtered through. They know what needs to be done. It is now on the other end of, investment where, the Aponias of this world and maybe others could extend themselves beyond what they are doing to reach to, farmers and their production areas and provide cheap equipment, to help in the handling of their produce, eventually reducing, quality concerns that we see on the market.
Nevertheless, Uganda continues to import more than it exports. The Minister of Finance said that the value of merchandise importing increased by 4.9% to $666.71 million in 2022 from $635.60 million in November 2022. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Well, thank you, Pedson Mumbere, for that report. Now, more from the 2023-24 budget approval. You've watched the deferral of the national budget, which is expected to be passed tomorrow, provided nothing extra happens. Now, Samla Hanifa interacted with Honorable Oguzuli Dennis, the representative for Maracha constituency, to delve into the approval inconsistencies with date sealed to before the 31st of this month.
The budget process has further been pushed to tomorrow because of the issue of corrigendum to addendum. I'm joined by Honorable Oguzuli Dennis from Maracha County, who is going to break it down for us. Honorable, you are welcome. Honorable, first of all, what is corrigendum to addendum? There are sometimes that as the local people don't understand. You break it down for our viewers.
Yeah, thank you, our viewers. My name is Lee. I represent Maracha constituents. We know the budget approval has been pushed, I think, twice, and that is because there have been amendments that came in form of the corrigendum, and that meant what was earlier on proposed, there will be variations to it. And as such, it should have gone through the normal budget approval processes. And that's why we have been pushing these matters forward every time the committee could not have a reconciled position on it. I want to observe that right now we are already past time because the Public Finance Management Act and our rules stipulate that by 15th of May, we should have had a report from the budget committee to be able to present to us a consolidated, harmonized, and reconciled figures, which we could then be able to examine. And our rules provide that the appropriation, before appropriation actually occurs, this report must be given to members at least for 3 days, and no debates shall ensue until the 3 days have elapsed. Then the 3 days would actually provide opportunity for members to examine the figures and investigate and triangulate that indeed these are what they looked at and agreed within the sectorial committees before we actually pass the budget. And where we are, this is not going to happen because the time, first of all, is not there. They are proposing tomorrow at 8 a.m. we should be able to come here and pass the budget, even when we have not looked at the figures. So how can such a budget be pro-people? How will it be able to address the salient problems of this country? I'm already convinced that this budget will not solve the problems of the country. We have emerged from the COVID. Right now, you know, the economy is just shattered. We are almost, because of the impact of COVID, because of the physical indiscipline in this country, because of corruption, we are not able to deliver public services. And that's very, very challenging for Ugandans. The budget proposes to mobilize resources from taxes and borrowing. The Committee on National Economy is supposed to report on performance of all loans. This report has not come to Parliament. And yet, right now, we are going to approve that government should go and borrow. The national debt right now stands at about 84 trillion. What is going to be the impact of this borrowing? Are these going to be concessional loans? All this detail is what we should have examined based on performance of previous loans. Even we don't know how the projects we borrowed for in many places are doing. The ACDP project has stalled in a number of places, and this was borrowed loan. The U-Gift money is not delivering on the project objectives in many places. All these things are not interrogated. Here we are moving to propose additional borrowing. We have had tax waivers given by government. If you offer unqualified tax incentives, what that means is you are going to forego revenue. Revenue which could build schools, which could construct hospitals. It's been established Uganda loses more than 2 trillion Ugandan shillings annually in tax waivers. And if this is coupled with the illicit financial flows that are very, very common in this country, how are they going to finance this budget? Recently, you know how much we are losing through the Bujagali deal. You have also heard that there have been waivers on gold tax. First of all, how were those realized? Did they go through Parliament? Who endorsed those waivers? And yet it is mandate of Parliament to waive or pass tax laws. So these are matters really which should have been interrogated before this budget is passed. You know, Uganda has executed double tax agreements with a number of countries. UK, Mauritius, different countries. All these multinationals are now doing what we call treaty shopping here. They want to look at what opportunities we can explore. And through double tax agreements, countries lose a lot of revenues. We are supposed to have all these treaties laid on table of, on floor of Parliament. This has not happened. We have performance and annual reports from Ministry of Lands and Housing and Urban Development, which should have shown us how local governments are complying with the physical development plans. Because if they are not complying, it means development is taking place in an unplanned way. And for such, the law says the minister can actually recommend that funding to such local governments be withheld. And this report has not come to Parliament. So what will be the basis of MPs passing this budget? These are things I'm now asking myself. Given the timeline, shall we do good work? Or we are just not going to address the problems of the country?
Honorable, do you think the problem is with the budget committee, or where is the problem coming from? Because the budget committee is supposed to have met with the sector committees when they are bringing the addendum to corrigenda, like the corrections in the budget. But then the Ministry of Finance goes direct to the budget committee. Where is the problem?
I think that's where the regularity is, and failure to adhere. It's a planning issue, because the budget proposals and the ministerial policy statements, the law stipulates when they should come to the House. So if they do not come to the House in time, such that they are examined properly, what do you think the person who is proposing them seeks to achieve? It means that they want to run away from scrutiny. And these are public issues which should have been subject to public scrutiny. Budget is a very consultative process. We know budget meetings start in the villages, in the parishes, in the long, long ago. But this doesn't happen. Even you'd be asking, when we are making the budget of Parliament, who's involved? Because we are stakeholders. When are these stakeholders involved? These are all matters which must be examined, and I want to believe the time is not going to be enough, and perhaps the people who are running these processes do not want to be subjected to scrutiny. And I'm glad you media is taking interest in these matters. You should be able to make these matters a forefront of issue, because they affect our lives. They are done using public resources, and these resources must deliver because we pay taxes. So every citizen is entitled to know how the money they pays tax is going to be used. And I want to believe Uganda needs to recover, the economy needs to recover. Already, you know, in the public, there are people complaining. Their wages are not adequate enough to enable them survive. And this is a discourse we should have here in the Parliament, to see how we can address the challenges of such people. But how are you going to address these challenges without resource mobilization strategy? You saw recently Uganda could not exercise appropriately her drawing rights with the International Monetary Fund because there were reforms which should have been executed, and these reforms have not been delivered on. And who is supposed to hold the executive accountable to ensure these reforms are delivered on? It's the MPs. So there's much more which needs to be realigned in this country, starting from the executive, coming to the House, Parliament. Right now, I think the processes we are going through will not deliver us the kind of results which can get this country out of the problems it is in now. You know, the PDM, many communities, including my own in Maracha, 15 groups have not received some PDM resources. Every time the ministry is supplying air, even in this supplementary budget we passed, you might find when the local governments and MDAs want to warrant this money, the system is failing. All those are tricks. You might find there's no money in treasury. That's why all those things, we are not being honest. If we want to address the problems of this country, we must get honest and discuss our issues transparently and in the interest of the people. As long as that is not the driver, I'm afraid we are not delivering. Already the speaker was imputing that even though she did not name those purports who are doing machinery work, it means if people have the mandate to do that, and yet the rules prohibit, what do you expect from such a budget? It means the budget will be able to address interests of individuals, not the public. In West Nile, as I talk now, we have serious infrastructural challenges. We have issues of compensation which should have been addressed by this budget. But you might find these concerns are not taken care of. Right now, we are suffering power cuts. There's no stable supply of power. And all these are matters that should have been addressed to ensure there's equity in resource allocation. But where are you going to discuss all these things if the time is so limited to deliberate on this? Tomorrow we're supposed to meet at 8. You can be sure not many people will make it here. And very few will pass the budget. And the budget may even pass, if we are not careful, without a quorum. And these are all, and yet recently there was a ruling. The courts negated the law we passed and made it null and void because of the issue of quorum. So it's the process is the same as the end. The process and the end are inseparable. So I really want to invite all the people concerned with this budget issue to ensure that it meets the provisions of the law. The earlier estimates said we would need a budget of about 50.9 trillion. And now with the corrigendum, these figures are bound to vary. And the financial certificate of financial implication we received was for this figure. It was 50.9 trillion. So if there are going to be increments, where is the commitment from finance? Without such a commitment from finance, what would be our basis to pass such proposals if they do not back that with commitment? And it's the issue we are raising here, and because those issues were not answered to a logical conclusion, I think that shaped the Speaker's opinion that this matter could not be concluded, and as such, she deferred the matter. But already there is non-compliance with the processes. We may even now need to suspend some rules if we are to really deliver on what needs to be done.
But Honorable, Parliament is already late on the budget process. It is coming tomorrow at 8 a.m. So there's nothing much to be done now. What would you advise your fellow legislators to do now at such a time now? It is already timely.
I think this was deliberate because we have been around. There was no way the process should have gotten so late. This is about prioritization. What do those involved prioritize? If they have not been prioritizing the business which is important and urgent, then they should reflect on how they intend to do. But all I can tell you is this budget, because of the time constraints, will not be subjected to scrutiny. So anything is expected. And then the public should be asking whether we indeed their representatives. Are we working in their best interest? Can such a process lead to a pro-people budget? These are things they must be able to interrogate because we are their delegates. They must be able to hold us accountable. Yes.
Thank you so much, Honorable Oguzuli. You're such a resourceful member of Parliament. Back to you in studio. The budget process has been pushed to tomorrow, and we do hope that tomorrow the budget that is passed is pro-people. Thank you so much.
Transparency indeed, and we sure hope that by tomorrow the budget is passed and the sectors that are pertinent to this country are prioritized. Thank you, Samla Hanifa, for that insightful conversation together with the Maracha Member of Parliament. Now, moving on with business today as we get close to the end, Sudan's Nile River state is dealing with devastating effects of the ongoing conflict between the state forces and the ARSP. Vendors and farmers are struggling amid soaring commodity prices and fuel shortages as humanitarian crisis holds for reaching impact on agriculture production and road safety and food safety. I beg your pardon.
The insurgents in Khartoum has compounded far-reaching impact as farmers and vendors struggle in the wake of gasoline shortage and high commodity prices. Although the battle zone in Sudan's Nile River state, north of Khartoum, appears to be far away, its damaging repercussions are real. In a nation where 1/3 of the population already depend on humanitarian aid prior to the war, the one-month-long combat has exacerbated the humanitarian disaster.
Petrol is not available now, and the price has increased on the black market. People can't transport their vegetables. Our hearts go out to the armed forces. Hopefully, they will defeat those rebels so that this country will be rid of this rebellion. May God protect this country and all the regions of Sudan.
Farmers in Al-Kara region are affected by fuel shortages. Donkey carts have been simply reduced to being only means of transport. Petrol is currently unavailable and prices have increased on the black market, thus limiting trade and travel. According to United Nations Humanitarian Agency, prices of basic commodities such as staple food and water has gone up by 60% or more due to supply challenges. Partial deindustrialization has been forced as the crisis deepens the country's possibility of prolonged economic hardships.
Kabale district is caught up in a stalled 6.2 billion water project as a procurement construction services is highlighted by corruption. A section of engineers of the contracted company have been apprehended pending the investigations of embezzlement of funds. Robert Ndiamhachi has more of this report.
Otuke is charged with failing to provide information regarding implementation of a stalled 6.2 billion shillings Bushura water supply project despite district's inability to pay for it. Ngabirano is accused of turning a blind eye when Assistant Town Clerk Alex Ampeire stole about 414.28 million Ugandan shillings from government before fleeing to China. Mariam Natasha, a communications representative for State House Anti-Corruption Unit, claims that Twesigomwe is accused of authorizing a payment to Riki Construction Company, which had been hired to build Mpungu Health Center 3 in Humura Town Council during 2020-21 fiscal year, but had already developed cracks.
Because each of them have different cases. For Tika, it is to do with a water project that was shoddily done in Bushura village in Rwanda district. Here he approved the building of a water tank without a water source. This project was meant to take about 6.2 billion and already 600 million has been spent. The work is shoddy because how can you build a tank without a water source? To West Dennis, this one is suspected to have paid contractors to upgrade Mpungu Health Center from Health Center 2, but still the work was shoddy, it was incomplete, there are cracks in the ceilings and different.
According to Elimate, a police spokesperson for Kigezi region, detained government officials are being kept in Kabale police station while case is being investigated. According to Mate, it is anticipated that suspects would be moved to Kampala so they can appear before anti-corruption court and respond to allegations as appropriate.
These have been charged with different accounts of abuse of office, causing financial loss, and the embezzlement of government funds. We have them temporarily here in Kabale. At an appropriate time, they will be transferred to Kampala for further management.
Otuke said during a recent visit by State House Economic Monitoring Team to districts that he tried to convince District Council at a time not to move forward with the project but was overcome. Twesigomwe also claimed that he tried to oversee the project and that when he found problems, the contractor had promised to fix them.
In the defects of building, we identified areas which were communicated to the contractor that the following areas needs to be rectified, and you hand over the project so that the project is in use.
Contemporary corruption has increasingly become complex in form, nature and manifestation, often practiced in syndicates and systematic collusions, with a high level of concealment to beat even the most prudent anti-corruption system. To effectively deliver these outcomes of zero tolerance to corruption policy that government had envisioned, a comprehensive 5-year plan of action, the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, was developed. Bronia Katsime, Norbert Ndiamhati, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Wow, that story will lead us to the end of Business Today. As always, thank you for the pleasure of your company. And if you missed any of these stories, you could watch on our YouTube channel at Smart 24 TV Live and follow on our social media platforms on Twitter, Facebook, and the like at Smart 24 TV. As always, you're such a good audience. Have a good night. I was joined with Winnie Zanaka, which is in the sign language interpretation.